types are great. Hello, my hosts, and welcome to another editing stream. I'm just going to check. Is chat set up? I don't think chat's set up correctly. Let's just get chat going in a second. Cool. There. Pin that message. Let's start with the editing. Product types are great when you want to say two things are true. But what if you want to say three things are true? I should be in cut mode. Let's just check that. Am I in cut mode? Yep. Oh, why does it forget about ripple? Trim to audio, trim with safe edit. Ripple on. Ripple on, it's a crazy feeling. I know, it's got me reeling. True. Even when you want to say three things are true. Even even when you want to say three things are true. True. But what if you want to say three things are true? Even when you want to say three things are true. But what if you want to say that something is are true? But product types are great when you want to say two things are true. But what if you want to even when are true? Even when you want to say three things are true. But what if you want to say that something is true for an infinite amount of types? That's when dependent function types come in handy. Okay. That's going well. Also called pi types. This extends product types into yes, I always stream early into an unfixed or infinite on a Friday. Hi, Awesome Pie. Fixed or infinite family of elements. This extends product types into unfixed or infinite elements. Did I say it twice? Or infinite family of elements. This extends product types into unfixed or infinite elements. It is type theory's equivalent to for L. For L? For L. Here is it how here is how for L. That should be for all. That's a problem. For L. Now, I think there's a new facility. Keyframe, add marker, split crip. Oh, ripple control's up there now. Good. Mute, disable, that's not what we want. Let's go into editing mode. Record. E from the mic. How's my volume levels? My volume levels are good. We'll do that. Okay. For all. Here is. Okay, let's get back to cut mode. Do I always edit it sideways? Yes, I do. And after we record, then we'll flip it upwards. The reason is you get more image sideways and you get less wasted space. I'm just going to adjust. I can't adjust that. Okay, that's fine. For L. So we're going to mute this section here. It's probably easy to do it in net mode. Just that, so it goes silent in that little bit. Like that. Bring that there. For all. Here is it. We'll fiddle around with that and change its audio so it goes smoother. But I shall put a mark here. Fix this audio. Get back in the cut. All right. Lent to for all. Here is it how. Here is how it is. We remove that and that went weird. Let's undo that. Like that. Let's try to make sure that's for all. Here is how it is typically done. Okay, let's shift you there. Good. For all. Here is how it is typically. Yep. Let's get rid of the weird spacing there. Typically denoted. Underneath the pie, underneath the pie, there it goes. It defines a new variable and sets it to be a particular type. Inside the scope of that pie, the variable is used as an argument to a type family. A pipe type, a pie, a pie type. Did I say that twice? A pipe type is inhabited. Remove that. What the? That's not supposed to happen. A pipe type. We are in cut mode, aren't we? Yeah. A pipe type. A pie. Okay. So we ripple delete. Okay, cool. A pie type is inhabited for all the elements of a given type, the family returns a pi. What are you doing? For all the elements of a given type, the family returns. Okay, I think you are causing us problems. I'm not sure why. Yep. Type family. A pi type is inhabited if for all the elements of a given type, a pi type is inhabited or a pi type is inhabited if for all elements of a given index type, the family. There we go. Nudge them closer. The family returns an inhabited type. So in other words, the predicate is true. Make that a little bit tighter. So in other words, the predicate is. You are watching a video before it's released, yes. But I'm yet to put in all the special effects and everything. Obviously. And bloopers. Oh, lots of bloopers. The predicate is true for every element of the index type. There we go. The index type. If you think about product types as being inhabited by tuples, then pi type then pi types are inhabited by infituples. Infituples is such a fun word. Infituples consisting of all proofs. Infituples consisting of witnesses for consisting of. Okay, we'll get rid of you. Infituples consisting of by infituples. Take that first. Infituples consisting of are inhabited by infituples consisting of witnesses for every element of the index. Element of the index type. Example time. There we go. This says the rather trivial statement that for every element, a type for every element in a type, the rather trivial statement. Go. Trivial statement for every element in a type. Split there. Squeeze these in and change my rather stilted flow into something that's smoother. In a type, that element is equal to itself. Since this is true for every type, we could extend it like this. Yeah, right. which can be interpreted as saying I need to take a bite of my not carrot, apple. Hmm. Yes, they're saying hmm. I like putting random Easter eggs from yes. It's saying for every type, an element is equal to itself. I do that too. I have some sort of jokes that are just for myself in most of my videos, which can be interpreted as saying for every type, saying for every type, an element is equal to itself. But interpreted as saying for every oh, let's get rid of you. Which can be interpreted as saying for every type, every element in that type is equal to itself. While being true, it isn't particularly groundbreaking, to be honest. So how do you ensure a pi type is inhabited? That energy doesn't appear, it only transforms. Yeah, the conservation of energy inhabited. That's where induction comes in. All right. Not the type of induction that warms your cooking or that you have to do as part of OSHA, like that, and that, or that you have to do as part of OSHA training, but mathematical induction. Each index type has an induction which tells you how to create a pi type based on it. We will be showing examples of how to induction when we start to talk about the natural numbers again. Sigma types. Wow, hold on. Oh, that's what's going on. But before that, we are going to be talking. People suddenly move. Blood is moving in our body, which causes blood moves in your body because your heart is beating, which means your body is moving. Before that, we are going to talk about dependent pair types, otherwise known as sigma types. Just like so we're never stopping engine until disturbed. You could argue that, yeah. Types. Just like pi types extend some types into the infinite. Just need a sip of water. Good water. They have a extend some types into the infinite, they have a very similar notation. What I find interesting is, in a way, a storm is an engine as well, because it takes in moist air as a fuel and turns that moist air into other forms of energy. Yep, I used DaVinci Resolve notation. The non-studio version is free, and it is a very good professional level bit of editing software. With sigma types, just one family member of this family has to be inhabited in order for the type to be inhabited. It is inhabited by a pair of the index and the witness for all. All right. That's a good place to start with. That's the basic fundamentals of cutting, adding audio and text. Yeah, you can get a long way with that. Simpness for that particular index. Creating proofs for sigma types is relatively easy. Go there. All right, because you just have to find the single situation where they work. So a super trivial example is just fine. For example, for this particular sigma type, you would just have to show it is inhabited by the pair of two raffle. Now we have sigma types and we have pi types. We can formally write the uniqueness principle for the rational numbers, which we discussed in our previous video. All right. Oh. Nobody wants to listen to me coughing. Our previous video, which says if there exists narrow that down. There exists a pair of nominators. That's that's where I fix nominated. Which says if there exists a pair of numerators and a pair of numerators and thank you, awesome denominators which are equal after multiplication, which are equal after multiplication of both, then they are proportionally equal, propositionally of both, then they are at the then they are propositionally equal. They are. What is interesting is you find out that words seem to merge into each other. Both, then they are propositionally equal. In the middle, you get bored and had sound effects to it. I will retake. Which says if there is equal after multiplication of both, then they are propositionally equal. Which says okay, they are after multiplication which says after multiplication I will retake. Which says if there exists a pair of numerators and denominators that are equal after multiplication, then all right, then they are propositionally equal. All right, go like that. There as well. Let's go over this statement to understand how each part works, which will be a lot clearer when I add all the LaTeX. The first pi introduces our numerator and denominator, and I should do some stretches. Let's pause here for a moment. Oh. All right. Stretches are done. Let's continue. All right. And says that we will be examining all the domain of rational numbers. The second pi introduces our second pair that we will be comparing to. Then we have our then we have our function type. All right. There we go. I only burp if I eat too quickly. I try to eat slowly these days. Recall that function types can act as an if-then clause in logic. So let's look at the if clause. We have a value. Yep. We get that down. We get that down. We have a sigma type, which introduces Q. Introduces myself. Q. Q. A whole number integer variable. Not sure why we picked Q, maybe for quotient. because it's this because it get rid of all of that like that. A whole number integer variable, because it is a sigma type, it only needs to be true for at least one of the whole numbers. Yep. Of the whole numbers. And we have a product type which we established in our previous video. Yep. Previous video corresponds to an and. So this becomes like that. So this becomes populated when both sides are populated. On the first part of our product type, we multiply Q by itself, and then we compare to see if it's greater than or equal to 1. All right, this is a roundabout way of saying non-zero, but in a more positive, encouraging, way, without double negative elimination. Saying not equal to 0 can cause problems, and being sort of positive, narrow that down, positive, and avoiding saying not is a way to is a way to do this more non-problematically in constructivist way. All right. Yeah. That's how it starts off, and then when you edit, it comes for clear exactly in constructivist ways. In the second part of our product type, narrow that down. In the second part of our product type, we multiply both the denominator and the numerator of the pair by Q. Yep. If there exists some Q that makes these two sides equal, then this will be true. With that, we go to the other side of the type, which asserts since the if clause is true, then that requires the then requires the then clause to be true. So the equality type will be populated there and there, be populated by this rule. By the way, my previous definition, talked about correcting mistakes of rationals in my previous video. I introduced a mistake. I forgot to use a denominator type which excludes 0. Also, there is another way you could do rationals via multiplication. You get this multiplication. You narrow that down and narrow that down. Get this type as your uniqueness rule. Go there. Which asserts that rationals are equal when the left numerator times the right denominator is equal to the right. So a right denominator times the left right numerator is equal to the right denominator times the left right numerator denominator is equal to the right denominator when the left numerator times the right denominator is equal to the right denominator times the left right numerator. Figuring out where the mistake was. It's there. The denominator is equal to the right denominator right numerator times the right denominator numerator times the left denominator. When the left numerator times the right denominator left numerator times the right denominator numerator just gonna go that was a blue one. Work out what this should be and fix it, please. The left numerator times the right denominator numerator times the left denominator. This is a much more simpler rule, but it does have the disadvantage that it doesn't allow me to show a use of sigma types with it. All right. The natural numbers. Yay, we're on to that. Okay, we have the basic components of logic. And okay, we have defined. Okay, get rid of that. And get rid of that one. Okay, we have defined the basic components of logic. And in the form of product types or in the form of sum types. Hello, Sharky. Pi types for for all. and sigma types for there exists. However, that isn't really useful. All right, that one down. To be useful, we will need to be able to do arithmetic in our system. Historic mathematics started to count livestock and grain. Yep. I keep on agreeing with myself, but I keep saying reasonable things, so no wonder I agree. So let's go back to those ancient roots and define the counting or natural numbers. We start with our constructors, 0 and suck. I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure, oops, I'm pretty sure you're I'm pretty sure you're familiar with what 0 is. Suck. You might be even familiar with suck as well. Is an injective function which takes what's that there? Oh, that's there. Okay, cool. All right. Which takes a natural number and constructs the next number. So suck 0 is 1. Suck n by definition. 1. Suck n by definition is going to be 1 more than n. There we go. All right. Trim that down. It's going to be 1 more than n. The nat type ends up go like that and like that. Ends up populated. Populated like this. You will notice that trim these down as well. You'll notice that there are basically two kinds of natural numbers. There it goes. 0 and numbers which are successors. This gives us a very powerful framework. All right. For dealing with natural numbers. Primitive recursion. I go brrrr in my purse. My purse a lot more plosive than they should be in that one when I talk about primitive recursion. In my lambda calculus video, I introduced general recursion and showed how it can be super dangerous. All right. The type of danger that introduced carelessly into a type system could lead to contradictions. Contradictions that lead to false proofs. False proofs that allow automated verification software to mistakenly misidentify a red light traffic signal as being safe. A traffic signal causing the crash. A traffic signal failure causing a truck crash. The resulting traffic jam gridlocks the city The economic loss triggers a collapse in the global economy. The global economy and global economy, a collapse in the global economy, an inescapable spiral of poverty. Everybody dies. Oh, the embarrassment. Oh, awesome. Oh, the embarrassment. However, primitive recursion is far tamer. In primitive recursion, we have a base value. Yep. Which is returned when the argument is 0. Then we have a step function. The step function tells us how to help me, step function. I'm stuck in the washing machine. Give a result for this successor of an argument based on that number and the result of applying the function to that argument. The function to that argument. For example, here is a function that adds 3 to every number. All right, we solve the base case, returning 3. And for the successor, we just use the first argument gives us the predecessor. I have to do a little step ladder animation for this. Successor, we call the successor 4 times on it. And then all right, and that gives us the correct result for add 3. To double a number, we have a similar application. All right. For 0, we simply return 0. And for our step function, we simply all right, narrow that down. The result of the previous function and apply the successor function twice. Even factorial is easy to express. You will notice that with primitive recursion, for every for any value, you only have a finite steps. You only have a finite steps. You only have you only get rid of that. You only have a finite count of steps to produce a result. This is unlike general recursion, where there is a potential possibility to have an unbound count of steps. Which means there's a fundamental limitation on simple recursion, even though it is quite polite. Indeed, the rules about there being a hierarchy of universes like that. Universes forbids a function from taking itself as an argument. So we cannot. That's there. Do general recursion, and that keeps us safe from these dangers. And now we get now we get to talk about the induction principle, and we're on to induction. Are we still recording? Yes, we are. Cool. Get rid of that principle, and now we get to talk, and now we get to talk about the induction principle, and now we get to talk about the induction principle for natural principle for natural numbers. I love the induction principle for natural numbers. It is so clean and good. Natural numbers. Is it possible to have a parasocial relationship? Relationship with an abstract constant. Abstract constant. Let's clean that up where I flubbed my line. Relationship with an abstract concept. Is it possible to have a is it possible? Is it possible? Hi, son. Is it possible to have a parasocial relationship with an abstract concept? Because honestly, all right. Because honestly, I have a rather one-sided, unrequited unrequited love. There we go. For induction on the countables. Induction. Alrighty. Yep. Thank you, Hassan. I've also done a video about my editing process as well. Induction is the way in constructivist logic that we can prove the case for all. Informally, we prove it by giving a witness for the base case, and then a witness for, if given a proof for the end case, produce a proof for the successor of the nth case. Ah, excellent. And induction will take care of the rest. If we are asked for any witness, then induction will act as a little engine. Yep. So like a proof factory. Produce a chain of witnesses starting from the base case. All right. Incrementing up. Here we go. I should take a stretch break. Let's do some stretching. Thank you very much. To the number that we need a proof for. So induction is, oops. Induction for. So induction is our little proof factory. I haven't called it a little proof factory. Yeah, okay. That we can manufacture a proof for any counting number. And in broader senses, we have for every type of so there's always a combination of laziness and hardworking for every type and in broader senses, for every type of and in broader sense, get rid of that. We have for every type and in broader sense, a proof for any counting number, and in broader senses, for every inductive type. In type theory, we are given a little engine that allows us to produce a proof for all, as long as we have given the relative elements for that. All right. As long as we're the relative elements for that. Long as we give the relevant, we have given the relative elements for that. Long as proof for all, as long as we give the relevant witnesses that particular induction. Narrow that down like that. Inductive proof. That particular induction. Inductive. That particular. That particular. That particular induction requires. And with that, we have introduced. All right, narrow that one down. Enough type theory to be useful for doing. Okay, you go less there. Most of the mathematics that I'm interested in. But at the same time, we have just barely scratched the surface of type theory. Alrighty, we have unlocked some of the nodes in my type theory tech tree. And in my next math videos, we'll be exploring some of these nodes that we narrow these down as well, that we've unlocked. Now I can do things like explain wells. I have no idea what this means. That's perfectly understandable because I haven't put any of the graphics in it that helps you understand what it means. And we started in the middle of the video. So fixed point theorem. I can start on the homotopy bit of hot tea. I can talk about how countable reals are so wild. I called them countable reals there. Countable reals are so wild and so well behaved. That's another thing I've got to fix. There. I called computable reals countable reals. Fix this, please. How countable reals are so wild and so well behaved at the same time. And on all sorts of other wonderful things. I'll even be able to talk about the dangerous, forbidden extensions to type theory. Let's trim that down a little bit. The computable reals are countable, right? Yes, they are. Type theory. So please subscribe for that. And for when I take other brief diversions into other topics that catch my interest. I hope to see you there. I hope to see you there. And that finishes the first wave of editing. And it's a pretty good time as well to go. Let's switch that. Hope you see you there. Yeah. The auto cut it off a little bit early, that one. And I had to extend it. What's the button I need to press here? It's that one. All right. Thank you very much for everybody joining me for this editing stream. Tomorrow we will be playing some Stellaris. So I hope you'll be able to join me for that. And as always, if it's your first time watching, please consider subscribing. And I hope to see you all later at my next stream. Thank you very much, and goodbye.